You're listening to the Sasha Davis Podcast, a show about overcoming fear and manifesting your dream life. Each week, we'll dive deep into real stories and tangible advice about spirituality, law of attraction, mindset, and money so that you can be your happiest, healthiest, and most abundant self. You ready? Here we go. Welcome back to the podcast, guys. Today I have Katie with me. I am stoked for this conversation. We've talked probably for like 2 years now. And so seeing all that you've been up to, and I know right before I hit record, I was just commenting on how awesome her photos look. She did a photo shoot. It's probably been damn near a month now. But like just what you've done and what you're putting out there, I'm totally vibing on it. I love it. I love your style. I love all that you've been up to. And before we get started, I do want you to just take a moment and introduce yourself to listeners. And then I want to get into your story because you've had a lot of shifts over this last couple of years. Yes. You said you're manifesting like a mofo. So I'm excited to kind of hear what all you've been manifesting and what you're working on and how that can apply to the listeners' lives too. So Katie, if you want to take it away and just go ahead and introduce yourself, I'd love that.
Yeah. So it's really funny though, Sasha, if you think about it, you were one of my very first podcast guests. So I think it's really fun. Great. I think it's really fun to like regroup and come back to like, oh, here we are. I love this. And I love having these conversations. But yeah, so I'm going to say, let's see, the intro is corporate girl turns entrepreneur. Like I was the classic box checker victim player, right, for years and years. And I just had one of those moments in my closet. And then like this is that intersection where like you and I are starting to move in the same circles. Is I had that big moment in my closet. I come home from work one day after checking all of those boxes, right? And I'm like, oh my God, this cannot be my life. This cannot be my life. And I start searching for something more, and like podcasting falls into my lap. And that becomes like this game changer for me. And it really helps me move out of that corporate space into the things I'm doing now. And so like, do we just want to dive straight into the story? Because the introduction piece, I guess, is that I'm a classic case story of the woman who put everyone ahead of her, corporate America, climbing the ladder, checking the boxes, miserable as hell, has this aha moment breakthrough. And then now I'm absolutely doing what I love. So corporate girl turned personal stylist.
Dude, for real. Like you are so in your element right now. And I remember some of the very first conversations that we have. And not that you weren't great at what you did, but I do know that I too come from the corporate world. And a lot of times we got to work inside the political bullshit or inside this box, right? And it's like you're constantly playing the game and it's exhausting, right? So when you can have the freedom to really like be yourself and be creative, it's a total game changer. So yes, let's dive right into your story. Walk me through, I guess I don't know how much you can share about your corporate job because I don't know like the legalities and whatnot, but if you want to share kind of what you did in a nutshell and how that transition into doing your own thing, like, because there's a lot of shit that comes up too, you know?
It's so funny. So I'm gonna kind of start like from the beginning. I just got the chills too, and you're talking, I was like, oh, this is gonna be so good. So we'll start with, I went to college for fashion. Okay. So we'll take that and we'll put that in a bucket. And then, I go to college, I graduate, whatever. I'm checking the boxes, right? I get married to my college sweetheart. I get a job. I go ahead and I move straight into like marketing out of college because I really just don't pursue the fashion thing because it's like where I live, it's just not really relevant. And, the marketing job feels really safe. And it's still kind of in that same creative kind of image space, right? Branding, whatever. And 15 years of just like climbing the ladder. And then the last company I was at, I worked there for 11 years. And so like my son was born, I started working there, and that's just always significant to me because it was like the same amount of time. However old he was how long I had been at the job. And so I feel like in some ways I basically grew up there. So like I did all the things, right? And my goal in life at that point was to hit a certain title and hit a certain dollar amount, right? And like just frank, right? I was like, if I can make 6 figures, like my life will be great and I can just coast for the rest of my life, right? And like, this is so stupid in hindsight. So I just work on that. And I'm like, that's my life's goal. And like at any cost, like that's all I wanted to do. And, mind you, of course, I grew up obviously not in a family that made any significant money. So hence why the money goal was such a big piece for me. And I'm just chugging along and, on paper, and there was this feminist spirit to it too. Right. And, corporate American woman, and I'm breaking ceilings, and there's not a lot of women at this level. And now I'm making money, and now I'm making more money than my husband, and like all these things. And I thought I was just a total fucking badass, but I was exhausted. And like, I'll just never forget my company. So I'm there for that whole time. And then towards the end of it, my company's relocating an hour away from my house. And this is where shit really started to fall apart, because I was like, okay, I'm hanging on by a fucking thread. And now you want me to commute for 2 hours a day? Like, how is that even going to happen? So I'm going through this, I'm processing this. They're throwing money at us to move, right? Like, hey, if you guys move and come with the company, you can get X amount of money. So it seems really good. And again, money is like this big motivating factor. And this is like, I bring this up because it's like the beginning of the end for me. So I come home one day and I have this major fucking meltdown, and I'm like, oh my God, like I'm barely holding on. How am I going to do this? And I have this major meltdown in my closet by myself. Like, that day you come home from work, you're exhausted, and the kids are screaming, and it feels like I've come home to my second job. And you're like, my family shouldn't be my second job, like this should be my happy place. I shouldn't be like just destroyed. And I had this big like meltdown moment. But, ultimately I have to pull my shit together and like go live my life. But that was kind of like that moment. And I think we all have one, right? Where we're like, okay, there's got to be something more. There just has to be something more. And I have the pressure of like leaving this house that I really love, and moving my kids for what? Like the money doesn't feel that important anymore when I start thinking of all those things. And so my first little inkling, I've discovered podcasts. And I'm like, oh, how the fuck didn't I know that podcasts before this? And things start to shift for me, right? And I'm like, oh my God, there's like other ways. And I'm being exposed to people who think different. Because when you're in that grind and you're surrounded by those people, and I know you're a big believer of this, it's like the people I'm spending the most time with are the ones I'm eating their energy all day long, right? So if they're in lack mindset, now I'm in lack mindset. And I have a real estate agent in my house one day, and this is my first like inkling of like the shift is starting to happen. And this real estate agent's in my house one day, and I get this overwhelming feeling of do not move. I don't know. You can call it my intuition. You can call it the voice of God. You can call it whatever the hell you want to call it. And I just looked her in her face, and this is like the boldest thing up to this point outside of, the typical corporate stuff that I've ever done for myself. I was like, we're not going to move. I was like, we're not moving. I was like, thanks for coming. We're not going to move. Like, I don't know what's going to happen, but we're not moving. And I go downstairs, I told my husband, I was like, we're not moving. And he was like, I don't want to fucking move anyway. I was like, all right, cool. And then like, it all starts to snowball. And like, I don't know what's going to happen, but something's going to happen. Then I launched my podcast. Like, I'm just like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to launch a podcast. I have no fucking idea what the podcast is about, right?
I remember this conversation too.
Do you remember I call you and I'm like, hey, Sasha, so somebody mentioned you, and can you please just talk to me?
I love that. That was awesome.
I was like, can I just have 30 minutes of your time? And I'll never forget, I was actually sitting in my old office at my job. And I remember like, this is like, I'm scared as hell. And you're on the phone and you're like, this is what I use. It's really not that hard. Just like fucking record it and like, just do it.
And I'm like, I have totally opposite advice of what you'll see on YouTube. I'm like, just fucking record on your phone and do it.
Yeah. You're like, just do it. You were like, here's who I use. Like, just do it. I was like, all right, okay. And I don't know what I had said to you, but I feel like I had given you like, okay, I'm going to do it by this date. And like, you didn't give a fuck, but I did, because I was like, okay, well, I told her that I was going to do this. Right. And like, you're so.
It was 11/11, wasn't it?
That was the day I launched it. Yep.
I remember. I thought that number was very powerful. I'm totally into like numerology and stuff. So I remember that.
Yes. So I was like, my birthday is on the 11th and K is 11th letter of the alphabet. So like 11's always my number. So I was like, okay, I've committed. I've said this to people. And I just launched the podcast. And like my real message behind all of this is it started just with that one scary thing. And I consistently showed up on that podcast every week for a year without knowing what the fuck the podcast ever really was about, right?
Mhm.
Like the podcast evolved and it grew and it changed, but I just like showed up and I was like, look, I have no idea what my purpose on life is to be here on this planet, but it's not what I'm doing. It's just not. And I was like, I know these amazing women. I've just like my whole life has changed and I'm bringing all these people on the podcast. And it just it just kept growing. And then, the pandemic hits and I'm pretty sure this is the game changer for a lot of people that are listening.
Mhm.
Then like a lot of people, like of course that just completely upended everything I thought I knew. And like thank God I was already on this journey. I'm not sure if I would have survived it. But I lose my job and I get laid off in the middle of the pandemic. And I'm like, holy shit, like who am I? What do I do now? Like that was my whole identity. Even though I knew this other thing was brewing there, like this was my whole identity. Like I didn't know, I felt worthless in so many ways. If that
Mhm.
sounds terrible, but you know what I mean?
Yep.
I was like, okay, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm, this employee, I'm this person. And I was like, shit. And of course, that sent me into a major tailspin. And then like I just kept up with the podcast. And like, so like my whole thing always comes back to that podcast and like the one thing, and I just kept up with it. And I was so honest on it. And I remember the day I got fired, I did a live and I just said, look, I just got fucking fired. I just don't even know. Like, I just don't even know what's happening from here. But like, I knew in that moment that would always be part of my story of like, there's the breakdown in the closet. There's the moment of like, don't sell your house. Then there's that moment I got fired, even though it hurt like hell in that moment. I knew it was a big moment and I just stuck with it. And that was August of 2020. And oh God, I wanted to quit so bad, but I just stuck with it. And then like just day by day and piece by piece, I just kept showing up. I just kept showing up. And like, I just doing all these little things. And to be honest, I don't remember the moment. I remember the week because it was like this, all these things coming together where I just like, it just like hit me. And I looked at my husband and I was like, shit, I'm supposed to do style. I was like, I should be a style coach. I was like, I'm not a manifestation coach. I'm not a mindfulness coach. I'm not self-love. I was like, it's style because style has always been my thing. And to me, that's self-love. And like, that's how I show that, and that's how I can help these women. And it's like just constantly showing up really led me to that space.
So when you got the news that you were getting let go or that you were getting fired, like did you know it was coming? Did you like have like a feeling or were you totally blindsided?
Yes and no. So if I'm completely honest with myself, like I feel like I've been preparing for it for years just because corporate America can be really nasty.
Oh yeah.
And my company had been through a lot of shit, right? We had a really bad PR nightmare and around like 2015, which kind of catapulted a lot of my success there because they had to basically clear out the top level. And they were like, who the hell is left? You get promoted, and you get promoted. um and after living through something like that, that literally shocked me to my core. And in that moment, I realized like, whoa, things can happen, right? So I was kind of always prepared for it. And we had been through a number of CEOs in the last couple of years. But no, I didn't know. Like I had just got promoted to this new role, which is funny. When I tell you the title of my role before I got fired was the director of style and trend. Like how fucking funny is that? How funny is that?
That is comical. Oh, that is hilarious.
So I had just got promoted to this new role. I was supposed to give this big board presentation in September, and it's August, like the end of August. So that morning, no, I had no fucking idea. If you would have said like, yeah, in 6 months, maybe, probably. Like if someone would have said, yeah, let her get through that board presentation and then we can let her go and we can run with whatever her plan was, then I could have totally bought that one. But that morning, fucking hell no. I'm in my closet just like I am now on Zoom, like, you know, where I record my podcast. I had set up a desk in here. I was doing all my work calls from here, like once the pandemic had hit. And I'm literally in my closet over Zoom with my boss. And then the HR director pops on and I'm like, this isn't good.
Oh God.
And he's like, yeah, so it's nothing to do with you. You know, that whole song. And it's nothing to do with you.
Not you, it's us.
Yeah, we're reorganizing and blah, blah, blah. And I just like, I had a couple of thoughts. My first thought was, well, thank God I don't have to do that board presentation. And then my next thought was like, oh shit, I'm getting fired from this company I worked for 11 years. And I think it's really funny, back to the number 11, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was 11 years, almost to the day of the anniversary of me being there. And I was like, I'm getting fired in the closet. Like, this is what it's come down to after 11 years of my life. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it was just funny. And then that is when it really started, that next journey of like trying to figure out who the hell I am. And then that's when I had to do some really deep soul searching. And that's when I was like, all right, trying to pull out all of my tips and tools, and manifesting has to be piece of this because I can't go back, even though I didn't know what I was supposed to do.
That's
And
crazy. So what did soul searching look like for you? Like, I know, man, I fell into like this weird headspace after I left my corporate job. Like there was so much, like I left, I didn't get fired. It was like the other way around. They were shocked. They were like, whoa, wait a minute. Like you're leaving? Like this can't be happening. And then I think they just got over it right away.
yeah.
But then I had so much self-doubt because I was like, fuck, am I doing the right thing? Am I crazy? Is this the right step? Da, 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 da. I was full of regret, but at the same time, like in my gut, I knew it was the right thing to do. But like, I don't know. Walk me through what soul searching looked like for you. Like, what'd you do to kind of help you with that process?
Yeah, because I did have a lot of that same feeling once I made the decision to officially like just go on my own and start my own business. Well, at first it looked like a lot of rose and burning of all of my notebooks that I had at home. But no, it turned, but you know what that really came from though, the burning, was I really just dove headfirst into moon cycles because I needed something that was there, something that was stable, something that wasn't shifting, something that had a date. Do you know what I mean? Like, and it was mixed with the spirituality enough that it was like, okay, here is where I can really like dive into, figure out who I am, like what's bigger than me. But I needed, because I was spiraling, like I needed something that like had a date, right? So like leaning into new moon intentions and full moon releases and things like that, like moon circles were like life for me, right? Because you can go to the calendar today and be like, okay, here is the full moon, here is the new moon. And like I would lived for those moments. And like that's really how I got through it, is I just dove headfirst and and there was terrible bad days and there was lots of fucking freakouts and crying. But like journaling got me through it. Really intentionally leaning into the new moon stuff, like a deep dive headfirst, like give me anything new moon, give me all the astrology, all the numerology, luckily I still got a severance package. So there was no like immediate financial impact right there. And this is funny when I tell you, I knew that I was kind of preparing for it because when I looked at it, I was like, oh, I have this nest egg, which I always knew it was there, but it felt different now that I needed it. So I dumped into like a lot of, I used a psychic too. I was working with a psychic through some of this. I did some Akashic record readings with some of our mutual friends and just like different stuff like that. It was really this deep dive into spirituality for me and like who I was as a person outside of the labels. Or like I did this one exercise and I always go back to this, was like write down 20 things about yourself, but you cannot mention anyone else in your life. Like you can't be like, and no one you serve, meaning like I'm not a mom or a wife or a sister or a friend, any of that. It's like, here are 20 things that make me, whether it's things I like to do, things that I prefer, things I like to eat, things that make me happy, things that make me smile, like whatever it was. And that was such a game changer for me when I did that, because when I look at that now, those things are still the same. But if I would have wrote down like I am, style person at my job, that would have changed because that's not who I am, right? That was just a role that I was playing. And yeah, so I just dove into it. But how I really got back to the style thing is like, I had this one podcast interview. I believe she was on your podcast too. And I can't even remember the girl's name. I think her name is Emily, about finding your purpose. So I have this podcast interview with her on my podcast and the podcast obviously kept up. It forced me to show up every week. So I couldn't totally like go batshit crazy and lose my mind. And of course my kids and stuff like that. But like for me, if I'm only just focusing on Katie, it forced me to like keep up every week with myself and with my life. So I'm still doing that. And I'm talking about purpose. And I'm like, I have no fucking purpose. And she's like, everybody has a purpose. And I was like, okay, whatever. and she was like, this is what clicked. The moment that clicked for me is everyone has a purpose, but how you express it is different. And I was like, oh, like just her saying that, she's like, your purpose is exactly what your website says, which is you're here to empower women to show up as their best selves. She was like, that's your purpose here on earth. She was like, how you express it or how you choose to do that is completely different. And I was like, oh, well, when you put it that way, and like, that was like the first click. Then I had another call with someone and we were just kind of working through some clarity stuff. And mind you, when I'm going through all this, I'm really trying to go deep on like, what do I do? Do I get a job? Do I start a business? But I don't know what the business is. And the worst part, Sasha, is everybody else's shit, right? It's everybody else's shit because everyone else was like, oh my God, you need to get a job. Here's a job. Like people were bombarding me with jobs and opportunities and different things. And I was just like sick of my stomach because I was like, I don't want that. It sounds great, but I really don't want that.
You got to put your blinders on. Like seriously, it is the same thing happened to me even to this day. Like people don't know. I don't, and not that I like give a shit if people don't know what I do, you know, because what I do is kind of out there, whatever, you know. But some people don't consider it as like a quote unquote real job, even though I very much make a very real salary or very real revenue in my business. But people will be like, oh, well, I have this opportunity over here and da 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 da. And I think they mean it with the best intention, but like just because it doesn't fit their box of what a job looks like, they feel like other people would be more comfortable if you worked a normal job.
Yes, they would. Everybody you come in contact with that's not an entrepreneur would be more comfortable if you worked a regular job. Every single person. And like, so, and that's part of this, right? This is why I'm diving head deep into spiritual stuff because I needed something bigger than the fucking humans around me. And like, God bless my husband. He's amazing. And he just kind of really gave me so much space. But it's funny, it's because he was the person I was as scared is to talk to from my perspective. Obviously, we have the same thing. But he ended up being the best one out of everybody. Like he totally gave me space. And every time I came to him with something, he was like, whatever you want to do, like, I'm just going to support you. The best part about that was that he ran a business, which also plays into this too, right? Is he had ran a business when we were in college and it crashed when the market crashed last time in 2008, 2009, right when we had our first kid, which is right when I got the job at the company. So for me, it all kind of coming to this big moment and it's really hard decision. And everyone's like, you can't, you know, here's a job. And I'm like, I don't want a job. And so like, I have that, I've kind of hinted at my husband that I don't want to go back to work, but I'm still letting him think I'm applying for jobs. Whether he really thought it was or not, I have no idea. I don't want to know. And then I have that podcast thing with Emily and she's like, that's it. And I was like, that's interesting. Then I get this other call and then like, you know, when you're on a call and somebody says something and then it shows up everywhere. And it was like mind mapping. And this one girl was like, just mind map. And you know, the stupidest part about it was I was like, I hate the bubbles. And she's like, don't do it in bubbles then.
I hate the bubbles. That is hilarious.
I was like, I can't write in the damn bubble. I can't do it. And she was like, then list it. And I'm a lister, right? I'm a box checker lister. And so I'm just like doing this every day. And then it just like hits me. And I go searching. This is when I say I can't tell you the day. I can tell you the day. I can't tell you what I searched. I put something into Google, and honestly, I really can't remember what it was. And the first thing that popped up my screen was the International Association of Style Coaches. And I was like, son of a bitch. Like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And that is the moment, and everything shifted. And I presented it, my idea, into this business mastermind group that I was in with no business, mind you, for a whole year. And everyone was like, oh my God, that's great. And immediately after we hung up on that call, one of the ladies that was in the group with me was like, how can I pay you today? And I was like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Isn't that just unreal?
I love this because it's just so funny. Like, I'm sure other people now, like that they see you at, like, even like me, like as you, like, I can see how your story has unfolded, but it all goes back to like what you truly wanted, like 10, 15 years ago, like what
Yes.
you know what I mean? And it's like you come full circle because you go the same route as I did or as anybody did, right?
Yeah.
You like, I have always been fascinated by like the human brain and like just getting inside people's heads. I've always been fascinated by like alternative therapies, whether it was like equine therapy or law of attraction or Reiki or anything like that. But I thought that I had to do this corporate job to be, you know, a quote unquote real adult, right? But then like you put yourself in this box and you realize how unhappy that makes you, that you come full circle back to the things that brought you joy in the first place. Like I remember when I was younger, I'd be such a weirdo, like walking out in the woods by myself, like talking to animals, touching trees and, you know, casting spells or some shit. Like I was a total freaking weirdo kid. But I just think it's hilarious how you're like, oh, I've always loved fashion and I went to school for this. And then you put yourself in this box. And even them, they're like, hey, you're a stylist.
Stupid. I know. It's so, that's why I was like, here, let me start the story with, and we'll put this in a box for later, that I went to school for fashion. Like, I actually have a fucking degree in this, like, it's fashion psychology. Like, are we kidding? But like, even when I was in college for it though, because and I was like, and I minored in marketing, they downplayed the fashion side of it so much. Like, people don't realize how much psychology goes behind it, which blows my mind, because like everybody gets dressed every day, right? Like you can literally use it as a tool. Like there's so much color psychology. And like, that's funny that you say about the mind, because that's really the part I love about it. It's not about being a fashionista, and it's not about wearing the coolest thing. There's a lot of freaking power and what you put on and the colors that you wear and the fabrics that you wear, and they make you show up different. And like, talking about the things you're talking about, like all those abstract concepts, right? Like the way we think, the way we feel, and the way we function is directly impacted by how we dress all the time. There's literally studies on this, and people discount it so much. And that's the part that I really, really love. Like, of course, I love a cute shirt, but I also really love the way you act, the way you show up, and the way you take brave action, and the way you're smiling or lighting up because you have that cute shirt on.
You know, it's funny that you talk about this because I think I intuitively pick things that make me feel confident without really consciously knowing that that's what I'm doing. But like there's certain colors that I will wear and I just feel like a total freaking badass. But then there's like other colors that I wear and I'm like, bury me in the ground, and like I don't want anybody to see me because it's just like not my jam, you know?
It's true.
But I love that. And so can you tell me more about like how you get into this, and like, for example, say you were going to like style someone, like for me, for example, or anybody else who you've worked with, or even like yourself, like what is the process that you kind of go through to uncover what somebody's personal style is and how to like choose outfit? Because this is something that I always struggle with. I always go back to the basics. I'm a very like tank top, like a solid color tank top, jean shorts, solid color tank top, jeans, or jeans and t-shirt type of person.
Yeah. I mean, but I feel like I am too. Like, it's really, I think it's about you're right though, when you said you intuitively pick colors. That's one thing I've noticed when I do like color analysis with people, is they're intuitively attracted to the colors that look good on them. Some people are really good about picking out clothes that naturally look good on them. Other people are really good about decorating their home and colors that look good on them, but they pick the wrong colors to dress themselves in. But there's definitely an intuitive, like you're attracted to the different things, and even people who wouldn't even consider themselves intuitive. So yes, you're so right about that. But when I usually start with clients. And what you just said is like this thing that everybody says is like, I always go to the same thing and I don't know how to put things together. There's definitely like a little process and it can be different for everybody. But before I even get to the like, hey, here's how to create a polished look, because I mean, that's a blog post really, right? Anyone could look that up. Is I try to tap into them and I always start with them. And it's really funny. One of my most recent clients, I was like, how do you want to feel? Like, tell me the 3 words that you want to feel every day when you're getting dressed. And she was like, oh, instead of my core desired feelings, it's my core style feelings.
I love that.
Isn't that hilarious? And I was like, okay, we've been through too much self-improvement work together. But it's true though. So it's like, you start with how do you want to feel? Then the next question I go into, and this one can catch people off guard, but it's still so true. And this goes back to the way your brain works, right? The next question I ask them is, how do you want to be perceived, or what do you want to communicate with what you're wearing? Because you know how our brain works. Our brain is constantly attaching itself to things that we've known and experiences before, so we can quickly make a decision, because the less we have to process, the more our brain can be used for decision making or whatever. So when someone sees you and you have on, I'm just going to make it up, you have on a black t-shirt and a cowboy hat, they're going to be like, okay, the last girl I met that had on this, either I had a positive experience with her, a negative experience with her, or if I don't know anyone, then people that do this usually talk really loud, like I'm just making it up, right? And that's how our brains work, is we associate everything. And that's like where those color psychology and stuff comes in. So I really try to get people to be like, hey, no matter what, however amazing we want to be as humans, we judge people based on what they wear. And it doesn't always have to be from a shallow place. It can be from where our brains are quickly trying to figure out the situation without using a lot of power.
Yep. So can we do this in real time? Like if I were to give you some examples, because I'm very curious as to what you would say to like, well, I'm like answering these questions in my head and I'm like, maybe we could do like a mini version of this for people so we can see how it works.
Yeah.
You want to?
Yeah, shoot. Let's hopefully I can step up to the challenge.
Oh, I'm sure you can. I think so. I mean, I think you'll be totally fine. And I just want you to say like whatever comes to your mind, and I'll do the same. We'll both just be open books, just kind of wing it. That's kind of my, MO anyways. So if you asked me like, what are my core style feelings? I love that. Like, how would I want to feel would be like bold, brave, and adventurous. Like those are the 3 words that come to mind, like right away.
Okay. So then the next question I'm really going to ask you is, then what pieces of clothing that you wear every day make you feel that way? Is it a color? Is it a shirt? Is it a fabric? Is it an accessory? Because like for me, it's lipstick.
Oh, I like that. Okay. So I would definitely say the color green makes me feel so like, I have a lot of, it's like a mossy green color, like a darker mossy green color is like my go-to. And I have green eyes, so I think it just makes me feel very like confident and adventurous, but definitely like the color green. Like I feel my best in the color green. And it's really funny. I just got my kids dressed the other day. We all had on black pants and green shirts.
Yeah. So do you know what's really funny, what you just said there, and without giving away all my secrets, is as soon as you said green, I was like, of course it is, because I'm pretty sure that's the same color of her eyes. And so that color is inherent to you as a person, because it's part of your natural color palette in your physical body. So you are naturally attracted to that. And it could be, any version of green, because a lot of times, like, because we're not flat colors on a piece of paper. So like a lot of us that have like green eyes or hazel eyes or whatever, there's always a range, and your eyes probably look more green based on what you're wearing and certain things like that. So the other trick to that is that, so then you can go into styles. So like, that's when like the styles would come in. So if you want to be brave and bold and adventurous, there's always certain looks and feels that give that off more. So, you can do things like broad shoulders or whatever that is for you.
And I think that's the part where like I would need somebody like you, because I think when you say bold, that can be perceived very differently based on that person's, and this is like that psychology piece of it, right? So bold to one person may be a bold lip or hot pink or the broad shoulders or high heels, whereas like
Yep.
bold to me is like a shirt that says fuck you and some cowboy boots, you know what I
Yeah,
mean, or something
exactly.
like that. And so I this is where I think somebody like you would really come in, because like bold is bold, but it's different for each person.
It totally is. It totally is. And that was one of the myths that I did like a myth busting thing on personal styling. And one of the things I had heard on somewhere I was doing some research is like, I don't want to hire that person because they're gonna make me dress like them. Why in the world do I want you to dress like me if I identify with that as how I express my personal self? And how would I even be serving you if all I did was try to get you to dress like me, right? It's so who we are. It's our first form of self-expression on a daily basis. And you are so right. So it's really about you. Is okay, what colors make you feel that way, Sasha? Okay, so cowboy boots make you feel that way, then how come you're not wearing cowboy boots more often? Or how come you're not wearing cowboy boots on the day you really have to show up? There's things like that we do. Or you realize so you and I are on the phone and you say, oh shit, yeah, those cowboy boots make me feel like a badass, and I stopped wearing them because XYZ, because of the pandemic, because I gained 10 pounds, because my kids are pissing me off, like whatever that is. And a lot of times, and you know this from coaching people, it's like the answer, like I just told you my whole story. The answer is right in front of you. And a lot of times you just don't do it because you forget or whatever that is. So part of it's stuff like that. And then also where I think the styling piece comes in is it's really about, have you ever just like bought a shirt or a pair of pants and in theory, it should look amazing, right? It's your color, it says something funny, but you're like, I just don't know why this just doesn't make me feel good. And a lot of times it's as simply as the way our bodies are shaped, right? So like if you have a long torso or a short torso, the way it hits, where it hits on your natural waist makes such a big difference. And it's little teeny things like that like I see people like that. I can't see myself like that all the time, but you know how you see what in others what they just really can't see of themselves, and it's just little things like that too.
Yeah, I love that, because I have had that happen to me where I'll see like because I'm one, I like funny shirts, like
Me
funny
too.
t-shirts, and then I like dress them up with like, well, I'm not wearing jeans a whole lot right now because I'm pregnant, but like typically I'm like a jeans or like a dress up for me. And then I do have a couple favorite pair of boots, but yeah, like you said, like right now I've just fallen into the habit of like comfy is key, but I think it's because I'm not like I'm growing another human. And so I feel very uncomfortable in the things that would typically bring me joy, kind of thing. But I do think that the body shape is huge to touch on, because I've ordered things before where they look great on other people. And I'm a little bit curvier than most. Well, I guess even now, like a lot of the models out there, they're starting to show a lot more curvier girls too.
For
But every
sure.
now and then you'll see something and it's on like, I don't know, a smaller frame person. And then I get it and I'm like, holy tits McGee.
Like, what are we doing? Now I feel like shit, and the point of this is to make me feel good. Yeah.
Yeah. Or I've bought shirts that, I wouldn't say I have a super long torso, but probably longer than like an average torso. And so I've bought shirts where they don't hit me right. You know what I mean? Or like the necks are too wide or the sleeves are too short, or there's just different things where like, in theory, it would be a really great fit for my personality type, but on my body, it does not make me feel good at all.
Exactly. And it's just like little nuances like that. And when people say things to me like, I just like to wear jeans and t-shirts, I was like, that's fine. So do I. But there's a way to make you feel comfortable in it. So it still like flatters your body no matter where you're at. And that's been my favorite part about this journey is I've helped so many women, all different sizes. None of them have lost weight. Obviously, I'm not helping them lose weight, but the way they feel about themselves when we start to the way that they feel about themselves when they finish is so freaking radical. And other people are commenting on it because it's literally how you feel inside. And it's just this knowledge and this power that they have now, whether they're in their own closets or they're shopping or whatever, when they say, oh, okay, I have a shorter torso, so that when that sweater hits me right on my hip, it makes my hips look wider than they already are. And that doesn't make me feel comfortable. So I shouldn't wear that. And it has nothing to do with anything. So then you have a new appreciation of your body, right? Because now you know what your body is and how it works. And then you can honor it and you can dress it in a way that makes it look good, instead of being like, oh, I wish I could wear those things. I look good on everybody else. Who the hell cares? Because it doesn't matter. It only looks good on them because their body type was made for it. And everybody's is so different. And like back again, that's part of, to like, what's cool about you. Like everybody plays that game, right? If you have straight hair, you want curly hair. If you have curly hair, you want straight hair.
Yep.
We can all do that.
Yep. Everybody sees what they want in somebody else. And so I think it's cool just to love and appreciate where you at and emphasize that. And you're right though, because if you can really, and this is where I even talk about it, you know, like with the whole manifestation things, and we'll start wrapping things up here, because I feel like I could talk your face off for hours about this kind of stuff. But like my big theory on like manifestation is you want to feel good more of the time. You want to feel joy, you want to feel confident, you want to feel empowered, you want to feel abundant. And you can't feel that way if you're wearing things that make you feel the opposite of that. And so you can sense that, like that power, that presence in people when they feel like their most confident self, because they show up different. Their body language is different. The way they talk, the way they present themselves, the energy in the room, it all shifts when you can feel confident in what it is that you're wearing and the message that you're kind of relaying out to others.
Yes, it's an energy just like any other energy. Period. Like for me, that's my biggest thing I've realized is the way we discount the energy of money as a culture. And there's all this weird shit around money. And like, you know, like talk about manifesting money. I feel like I've been manifesting, well, money and opportunity like crazy lately. I've started to feel like style and money have this really weird negative energy. But the funny part to me is those are two pieces of your life you deal with every goddamn day. Every day you think about money, and every day you have to get dressed. Use those energies to your advantage.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, I definitely can feel a sense of, you know, like even today, like and like curling your hair and stuff like that too. Like I've been on this kick where I'm like, okay, I'm going to do my hair a couple times a week because it just makes me feel better than if I just like throw it up. You know what I mean? And like, it takes me 5 minutes to do it. And it just shifts like how I feel like on camera or in front of people, or like, I feel like I can all of a sudden like go somewhere and not have to worry. But I mean, not that I really give a shit what other people think anyways. I've kind of at a place where I'm cool with that. But like me, myself, I feel better if I'm just a little bit more put together.
Agreed. I agree. I mean, I'm totally with you. Like, I really could give two fucks what you think. And sometimes I'm totally in the mood to go to the grocery store looking like I rolled out of bed. Like, that's literally what I want to do.
Yeah.
But after too many days of doing that, it just doesn't feel good anymore. And going back to like when the pandemic, you know, started, and I'm pretty sure everyone was losing their shit at some point. If you didn't have a breakdown moment during it, then I don't even want to be your friend. But I would never forget, there was this one moment, like in the beginning of it, when all four of us are in the house all day, you know, everyone's transitioning to this, like, I don't know when I'm ever not gonna be in the house again.
Yeah.
And I didn't take a shower because I was like, well, I don't have to, because I'm not going anywhere. And that was
Mhm.
the worst day that I had had. And I was like, oh my God, no matter what, you're at least taking a shower. And like, no matter what, you know, your clothes could at least match. Like,
Yeah.
just some bare minimum basics. But of course, I would say once I kind of came back to myself, I do look forward to getting dressed up now. And I'm like, oh, I like getting dressed up now. It is a way for me to express myself. You know, some people express themselves through art or painting or like whatever that is. It's a total way to express who you are, how you feel, what mood you're in. And like I said, for me, it's lipstick. Well, I like to get dressed too, but lipstick's a big part of it. And so that's, if you want like the quickest tip, like everyone's always like, I don't know how to look polished. One of the quickest ways I think for anyone, like if you're looking for a quick, like a 1, 2, 3, well, there's a couple things that you could always do 1, 2, 3, but in a daily, everyday life, break up your way you get dressed into 3 things. So number 1 is like, okay, what top am I going to wear? Boom. I feel like most people start with the shirt. 2, what pants look great with this top or complement this top? And the part then that I feel like really brings it all together. Number 3 is like, what's your third piece? Your third piece is either a jacket, a kimono, a cardigan. If it's not that, then it's your accessories. And the jacket is kind of the accessory. So like, what's the accessory that's going to like kind of pull all this together for you? And it can be a combination of all these things too. I'm just saying, like, whenever you're getting dressed, just always think, okay, top, bottom, and the third piece. And like, what's that third piece going to be for me today? Is the third piece going to be a really cool jacket and a bag? Is it going to be a really cool jacket and a headband? Is it going to be a headband and lipstick? Is it going to be earrings and my cowboy boots? Like, what's that third thing that's going to tie your shirt and your pants together that's really going to make you feel amazing? And sometimes the third thing could be the first thing, and it could be the pants. Like maybe you have that pair of pants that like you never wear, but always like I try to think about it like that, because people always ask, like, what do you do? I'm like, I don't know. I just get dressed.
You're like, it's just easy for me. I don't know.
Yeah, like it's hard to like sit down and think like, what do you do? But like the more I work through it with people, I'm like, okay, so start here, do this. And now how will we like we have the present, we've wrapped the present. Now how are we going to decorate it? Like what bow are we putting on it?
I like that. Yeah, I would say when I'm like getting ready in the day, like during the day, I'll pick my shirt out first and then I'll pick the pants. And I always throw on some type of like simple jewelry. I'm a very like jewelry makes me feel put together. So I'll just put on like a very simple earring, a very simple necklace. Sometimes I'm really into like crystal jewelry. So then I'll pick a couple bracelets that go with my shirt, and then I'll pick shoes. I always try to pick like a shoe that will go with whatever it is that I'm wearing. Pants I don't get too hung up on, but and I know there's always room to like up level your style game. So you know what, it's funny you said like about getting dressed. I was just talking to my husband the other day. I miss getting dressed up.
Yes.
The last time I think I got like super dressed up, aside from like family pictures, was a dinner cruise, or we went on a cruise last January in the Bahamas before like all this shit hit the fan. And like where I actually got to like curl my hair and do my makeup and put on perfume and wear a high heel and wear a dress. And not that I'm that type of person that wants to do that all the time, but like, damn, I miss getting dressed up and like going places, you know?
It's fun. Like I said, it's an energy, right? Like it's just a different energy. You become a different piece of you when you dress up like that or when you go out. It's like your energy shifts, your responsibility shifts. Do you know what I mean? Like when you get dressed up and you do things like that. I completely agree. I think everybody probably feels like that to some extent, no matter what it is.
I know. I almost want to have like an adult prom where everybody can just wear really big fancy dresses, get dressed up, and just fucking like go to town and dance and have fun.
Yes. Can we have like a Bridgerton party? Because that's what I
want. I'm in. Sign me up. Where are we going?
I know. My husband's always like, you just want me to be the Duke because you want me to be the Duke. And I was like, well, that's a different party.
Oh, I love this.
But I just want to get dressed up because like they're so dressed up. And I just think it's funny that show came out when everyone's in their sweatpants for longer than humans have ever been in their sweatpants. And they're like, hey, here's this Victorian era. Everybody's dressed up to the nines all the time.
Right. Isn't that crazy though? Like how society has changed. Like I'm not like you see on, I remember seeing like all these like different outfits, cute outfits, spring outfits. And now it's like the hottest sweatpants are.
Yes. Here's 5 types of joggers.
Yes. Yeah. It's just crazy. Just absolutely crazy. All right. Well, I love this. If you could say, okay, so before we totally wrap this up, I want you to share like what you got going on, how people can contact you. But before we do that, what do you want to leave listeners with? Like, what's the one thing you want to leave listeners with? And then let them know how they can get a hold of you.
Oh yeah, for sure. I would say the one thing I want to leave listeners with was actually a message that came through my email this morning on one of my many most motivational emails that I get. And it was, think about the amount of time you're spending on something and does it deserve that amount of time? Is it important enough for the amount of time that you are putting into it? And translate that to people. Like that for me has been the biggest piece, is really, really paying attention to the people. Because when you are going after your dreams and when you're manifesting a different life, you have to be so like surgically intentional with the people that you're around, because that's just the biggest form of energy that you will pick up on. So that's my biggest piece of advice to everybody, is like keep that circle really tight. And they say what, like the 5 people you hang out with are the 5 biggest influences in your life. So think about that every single day. And you can find inspiring things like that on my Instagram. I'm joking. But yeah. So my Instagram right now is the easiest place to get in contact with me. I am in the middle. Talk about manifesting and investing and doing scary shit. I am in the middle of revamping my entire website. And really, because right now the website is centered around the podcast, and I'm going all into the styling stuff, services, how to work with me, like all of that. So I just invested a ton of money in that and manifesting that right now. And that will be launching, I'm going to guess, probably in April, because I'm going on vacation. And so I've pushed it back a little bit. But that'll be amazing. But in the meantime, Instagram at Katie Allen Stylist. I feel like my Instagram is fun now because I did a photo shoot.
I love photo shoot.
And so I have content. And then of course the podcast. So I'm still showing up every single week on the podcast. And the podcast is called Just Realized, because it was so appropriate for that time. And it was just like me sharing all the things I was just realizing every day. And no matter where I'm at on my journey, I'll never stop realizing new things, right? You'll always be like, oh yeah, I just realized I was supposed to be doing this. It's been in front of my face for 15 years. I don't think that ever stops. So the podcast is all of those things. It's my journey, and I try to bring on amazing women like Sasha. We should get back together because you haven't been on since I first started, and we can get into some manifestation stuff.
Yes, I would love that. I get so giddy about talking about that kind of stuff.
And then I can really share some stories. I didn't even really get to share all my good manifestation stories.
I know, that's what I mean. I'm like, dang, like an hour went by real quick.
Like, because I talk so much about my story and who I am, but I just want to paint that picture because I just want women to know that like I was the biggest corporate curmudgeon that existed, right? Like I would have knocked anyone out the way to get what I wanted. And I'm a completely different person. And I just I didn't walk away from it. I got pushed away from it, but I walked away from not going back. I walked away from so many other opportunities and people like trying to give me jobs, and I've turned them down and said no. And that's the scariest fucking thing, but I just knew I had to. And that's where I said, I feel like I've been manifesting, because saying like, oh shit, I'm not going to take those job opportunities that came afterwards, and say out loud to people like, no, I really want to try to get this thing off the ground, even though I don't know what it is. And
no, I love this.
You can do it. If I can do it, anyone can do it.
All right. I think this is awesome. I'll put all of your information in the show notes, where they can find you. I'll put the Instagram and the podcast. You guys head on over. You will love her photo shoot. You'll love her photos. You'll love her personality, just putting it out there. I love the spirituality behind it all. I think what you're doing is amazing, and I totally see this in you, and I can't wait to see what you create this year. So thank you for coming on and doing this.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.